Hi there, welcome to a very important video within the Noah Presgrove case, looking back at archived conversations which may or may not exist anymore and bringing them to light, for some people never seen before, and for others maybe long forgotten. Key important details revealed in regard to the party, Noah Presgrove, Jack Newton, what he did and what went on, and the likes of Noah's family against Brooke Bounds Carter in the earlier days. Join me today as I read it to you, analyse, break it down to understand what's going on or what did at some point. And whilst it is old, there can still be relevancy to it in understanding how it's shifted since. Are there discrepancies from then till now, or is there any truth to it and consistency? If you are currently here during the live premiere, share your live reactions in the chat box located on the right side of the screen. And for anyone and those watching on catch up, be sure to drop a comment below under the video to let me know your thoughts on the matter. And if you have any questions or answers, you're welcome to do so. If you want to catch up on recent videos of mine, missed out on anything, want to catch up on past ones, top right corner where the eye symbol is up there, click there and you'll find the drop down box with the full playlist. And shout out to those that have recently found my channel and recently found this case new to them. It's good that there is still that little bit of growth and reach out there for newer audience members and viewers. That can go a long way. Hopefully TikTok does the same thing with time too. If you want to check the TikTok page out, that'll be on my main YouTube channel page, though last time I checked, the link for some reason wasn't quite working, so I might have to post that particular link in a video of mine or the community post, but I'll sort that out later. The order of how we'll do things today, we jump straight into the screenshot conversations, read, analyse and add on from there. Without further ado, let's begin. Starting with Paul Poucher, this particular screenshot does say 38 weeks ago. As for on what Facebook page, I'm not too sure, but Paul said, how about the morning of him being found? The phone call to Jack Newton. Who being found? As in Noah Presgrove's body. The morning as in Monday, September 4th, 2023. Jack Newton scrambling, saying he wasn't even there in front of about 10 people and hurrying off the phone because he had to go to Texas for work. Really? If on that day he had to rush to Texas for work, what was the whole fishing trip situation then? Because to be going fishing on the Monday, around the time or post news of Noah's death, implies you've got the day off or the morning off to be able to do things. But let me just reword that just a little bit differently, as in the fishing trip was planned out supposedly before the news of Noah's death and then was cancelled, called off once finding out about the best friend being dead on the highway. But in terms of the timing of it and what was going to happen supposedly, it didn't seem like Jack was in a rush to go to work, but more so to spend some quality time with family members and so on. Anyway, these are solid facts, what Paul says. That's what he told Noah's mum, Casey Smith, that morning. Sorry, I wasn't there. Such BS. Y'all know something and it will come clean. I just hope all is seeing your true colours. I mean, in brackets, I didn't do nothing, but I'm going to stay quiet the whole time. Even got a new house, I believe, out of state, and now want to say something. Now you have had time to cover and get help covering. Don't believe any of it. Right, in brackets, I didn't do nothing. I'm going to stay quiet. Is he talking about himself or talking about someone else that's being dodgy? Unusual. Now, Paul Poucher has been somewhat vocal another time when it came to him being the one to go on down to the party house on the day of Noah's death, but in the evening time to fetch some of Noah's personal possessions because Deborah Smith, the grandmother, wanted them brought back. Now, it's a bit of a weird mystery because some people believe Paul went to the incorrect house and other people believe he went to the right one, but no one was home. There was a dog barking but couldn't be found or seen. My question would be, how would you be able to look through the window of the door when it's not quite clear to see through the glass, first of all, and secondly, the lights would have been off, so how would you been able to see inside when it's quite dark, especially nighttime and dark inside? So that's what made me question about Paul. And the mention of bleach as well, smelling that quite strong from the outside, was a lot used on the inside, or what's the deal there? But, as for context as to the original post and for Paul to give this comment, it's not quite clear, but maybe as we go further on in some of the screenshots, it might link on in some way. But the morning of Jack Newton scrambling, saying he wasn't even there, wasn't even where? At the highway? To find Noah's body? What? In front of 10 people? Partygoers? Hurrying off? The phone? What? So, he was physically in front of 10 people, but he was on the phone to someone? I'm not too sure what's really going on here. It's a bit all over the place. A person called Ashley says, you say the side-by-side was just dusty and that if it tipped, it didn't leave any scratches, but people gave Noah a shower for being muddy from the wreck. I'm genuinely confused. Well, if the side-by-side was simply dusty, it means it's dirty, it needs washing. More so with Noah Presgrove, if Noah Presgrove got dusty and it stuck to his skin, it's not going to feel too good. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel dirty. You need a wash. That's what Noah probably wanted. How does dust stick to your body? Well, because of the humidity and the warmth and the heat there, and if sweating slightly, the body gets a little sticky, so things will stick to it, including dust. So it is possible, right? I think Ashley got confused interpreting it as, well, Noah got muddy, as in actual mud, but the side-by-side didn't. How is that possible? Well, from the looks of it, both got dusty at least, beside dirt, beside actual mud. You've got to take in mind the dryness over there. You wouldn't really get mud because it wasn't wet, it wasn't raining. Moving on, this particular post, whether it be the same thread or not, Robin Smith, the aunt to Noah, did speak up, saying to Kalia, the shorts were given to Dalen, the brother, by one of the kids at the party, not the investigators. And that seems to be true from most part of it. But Paul Poucher says, his wallet, Noah's, is still missing. That I aware of, and that red trucker hat of his. Don't remember it being red, I thought it was white, but I guess the hat that we saw of Noah at the party was his favourite. And it was hanging in the door on a hook. What door? I'm guessing the party house door, in which Paul attended in the evening, looking through, saw the items, no one home, unable to pick them up. Fast forward onwards, the items went missing, not to be returned back. But did Paul Poucher try returning back, or try contacting any of the homeowners, partygoers, as in, hey, can I come down to collect the items? Hey, I already tried coming on down without warning, no one was home. Could I try again, call back later? Did Paul ever make that attempt, or at least try? If you're not successful the first time, maybe try again another time. Paul may have not known of partygoers not being there after moving on from the tragedy and event, getting away from it all, understandable, as time passes on through the day. But it would have made sense for Paul to at least made his announcement that he's coming on down, just in case anyone was on site or present. You don't just magically show up without notice because it's just not practical. It might disturb the peace of people. It might not be practical for yourself if you cover all that distance not knowing that no one's there, and you've just wasted a journey. You've wasted money and time and so on. You would have thought there would have been a bit more communication in a way. We move on to Brooke Bounds Carter. Apologies if it is a bit all over the place. I'm just working with what I've got and what's been shared. Brooke Bounds Carter to Alexis. They went into the house. So I'm guessing this is to do with the police on the day of Noah's death. The police went into the house, went around the property. The owner of the property told them to go and get whatever was needed. Nothing was cleaned with bleach, like people are saying. They took the LE down to where the side-by-side flipped and showed that place too. Well, Jack said it was the pasture, which is round the back of the party house. So basically they went round the back. Now, if the police did all of that, and still, to the end of the day, not much of interest was gathered or taken away to lead to an arrest of someone. Yes, the general public that believe at first that not enough was done or seen to at the house, no investigation, no proper search done. But if it turns out that a proper search was done, I can imagine those sort of people saying, well, the police should have found something. Well, then likely they're probably covering for the people. Likely they turned a blind eye, that they did see, they did smell, they did pick up on stuff, but just ignored it. Because they had to have found something there. It had to have linked to the party house. That's what could be going through people's minds on and off. In all fairness, it's just words here because we can't see the hard evidence ourselves, like if there was a search warrant or if there was any police documents to say that they've been there at that time and what they've gathered. That's just not come about public. But yeah, they went into the house, didn't find anything from the looks of it, around the property, and they could take whatever was needed. But what did they take? Nothing was cleaned with bleach, even though Paul Poucher says he could smell bleach on the day, in the evening. Interesting. Is it possible that bleach was used after the police had left, and when Paul got down there much later on, that's why he smelled it? Did Paul somehow mistake the smell of bleach for something else, or the vice versa? They took the LE down to where the side-by-side flipped. Took the LE down. Down to where exactly? It sounds like further away that, but Jet said round the back of the house. Jasmine, why are you spreading BS? They did not go into the house, and that's a fact. And Brooke says, yes, ma'am, they did. Were you there? No, you weren't. They dang sure did go into the house. Now, yes, you could put the argument across and say, well, was Brooke Bounds Carter there? No. Was she in the country? No. So how would she know then? I guess because Brooke Bounds Carter is a long-time friend to Stevie Howard, and Stevie Howard the mother to some of the party girls. So you can see how information could have been passed on in learning and understanding what really happened. So there is that. Jasmine's response, they did not go into the party house. Those facts have already been released. You know what happened then. Where's the hard evidence to say police went into the house, searched around, took what was needed? Where's the hard evidence to say the police did not do that? Either way, I've not seen hard evidence. It's what supposedly has happened. I don't know if it moves on to the next slide, but Brooke does say, yes, ma'am, they did go into the party house. Not sure where you're getting your facts. Is it here? Getting your facts. Show where the police released that. Well, what has the police actually released, Crystal? That the side-by-side could have been flipped after the fact as a cover-up, though, so unfortunately this proves nothing. If Noah had been injured on that side-by-side, there most likely would have been blood evidence in the area. It should have been part of a crime scene investigation. The thing is, Caden Pressey said he was shown a photo from a video of the after effects of that side-by-side accident rollover, and Noah was just fine, laughing and joking, smiling with others, bit of a bloodied nose, and that was about it. He was still alive and conscious, so it was okay. So there's that. And take in mind, these are older comments, so it probably would have been before Caden Pressey said what he said. We wouldn't have known at the time. Brooke, that I don't know. I'm just stating the property owner willingly let them go wherever they wanted to. Now, what Ellie did research-wise, that's on them. And then it does say at the bottom, Caleb Newton has turned off commenting for this post. So what page was this on for Caleb Newton to be active and to create a post? You don't really see or hear much from Caleb. Brooke Bounds Carter, Justin Roy, I didn't say whether it was searched or not. Go back and reread what I wrote. I said they did go in, and on the property and the house, how they searched is on them. So, did the police do a thorough search or not? Were they within their rights to do so? Did they consider going back again? I wonder. Now, the police would have been present at the house. As to whether they searched or how deep they searched is another question, because from like how it's been worded in the case, like Caden had left or was told to leave, from what he says, by Renee before the police get there to avoid questions or so, from what Caden was getting at. And it would make sense for the police to go to the house just to simply ask questions as well. As for a search, well, that should be done too, but the depth of it, a bit of a mystery. What else do we have? Brooke to Justin, I might have been there. No, it was not cleaned. Lol, stop it. I never implied it was searched. So try again. Tell me who your witnesses are. Madison Rawlings, the sister to Noah Presgrove, calls out Brooke and says, you can't be partially somewhere. Either you were there or not. And to be honest, BBC was on holiday at the time in a different country, so she couldn't have been there. Unless once she returned back home, post-death of Noah Presgrove, she paid a visit to the party house to have a look. Then you technically are there, but not at the relevant time. Unless it was just being sarcastic, what Brooke was getting at, and Madison didn't catch on. Robin Smith to Brooke, please just stop. I'm done with the lies. That house has, to this day, never been searched. You want to continue to spout Stevie's bullshit, then you can kick rocks. So back then, Robin didn't see well with Brooke and what she was saying. Neither did Madison Rawlings. So it's interesting to see what the victim's family attitude was towards the likes of Brooke Bounds Carter. But at the end of the day, these are all people that weren't actually at the party, but know of someone that was, and maybe in contact with them to some extent. Though not so much with the victim's family, because who they knew of was their son, their nephew, etc. And they're no longer alive because it's Noah. Interesting. For Robin to say the house was never searched, but for BBC to say it was, there's a bit of a divide and split. Now, if it truly was searched, would you have expected anything different in the case? Any different leads, outcomes, any add-ons? You let me know your thoughts there. Because, like I said earlier, if it was truly searched and not much came about from it, are people then going to say, oh, well, yeah, it's been searched, but clearly they weren't properly searching, or they turned a blind eye because there has to be something there. There has to be evidence. Who knows? Robin says to BBC, bullshit. Brooke's response, facts are the cops did go to the house, did go in the house. How they searched is on them. I'm stating that they did, in fact, go on the property and in the house. Saying that didn't happen is a lie on y'all's part. I mean, without a search warrant, but to just simply go down to the house to question the other people of interest and witnesses and get their statements or some kind of response, formal procedure is quite possible, right? Who last saw Noah, those that are close to Noah and not far from the scene. It makes sense for police to go down to ask questions. As for searching the property, not heard much on. So besides a search not being taken place, as Robin says, does Robin also believe that police never went down to the house to interview the remaining partygoers as well, I wonder? Jasmine to Brooke, they have not searched the house. Show me the warrant, because they haven't been invited into that house once. What, so no questioning was done then on that day? So sorry to Robin, you have to deal with people constantly trying to lie and sweep truth under the carpet. Our God is mighty, and what was done in the dark must and will be brought to light. Okay. Julie, interesting. Pretty sure Renee Millan posted just yesterday that she did clean. Clean, as in what? The party house? Does this link back to that mention by Kathy Bingham, private investigator, 3 days post-death of Noah Presgrove, somehow doing a stakeout on the house for 3 days straight, claiming that the Millan family were doing a deep clean of the house? You know, even if it wasn't true and it was a lie, why would Kathy Bingham say something like that? How does anyone benefit there? Ashley to Robin, you should just block this person so they can't spread more rumours. Right, as in you should block them, implies that this was in the early days on the Justice page, the family run page, in which when earlier on, people, familiar names, those what we've heard of from the party and beyond, were together on that page before disbanding or being removed and the moderation getting stricter. I don't know for certain, but could some of this is what Justin Roy was getting at, as in it went wrong after comments and questions, a Q&A with Caleb Newton, and things disbanded, broke up, and previous posts and comments were deleted, and it was lost, and it was a shame. Could some of this be remnants of that? You never know. But then, Jessica Fowler Poucher is the wife to Paul Poucher, and Paul Poucher is a cousin, I believe, to Noah Presgrove. And Paul Poucher said, on the day of Noah's death in the evening, went to the house with his wife Jessica. So now Jessica steps in, calls out Brooke, saying, quit lying about the house condition. You were in Greece, nowhere near the home. Some of us were. And that is interesting to say some of us were, implying that Jessica was at the house. And from what Paul said previous in the video that I covered, it was him and Jessica. So that's very interesting. Lies all the time. Zooming in. And that's just a photo. You probably can't see it. 2023, September the 3rd. Photos uploaded in Greece of BBC with her friend or friends. Basically, as proof to say she was nowhere near the party house. And in some ways, that is a good thing, because people then can't be falsely labelling BBC as being caught up in the case or being responsible for Noah's death. I don't know if people tried swaying it that way at some point. But if BBC is in a different country, in some ways, that's a good thing for them, as in they've got a very solid, hard alibi to say, well, I can't be responsible, I'm over there. But it does give other people ammunition to then say, well, because you're doing a lot of talking or passing on a lot of information, are you in a position to do so when you weren't there yourself? And it just goes back and forth and back and forth. But then again, the people that call BBC out on that, same people that weren't even there themselves at the house. And not to sound negative, but it can also apply to the victim's family who weren't there either. So it all comes down to relying on party goers, relying on footage and photos and media, the people that were actually present. That's all you can really go off from. Jessica to Justin Roy. Nope, screenshot posted of her in Greece. So this would have been early days of people figuring it out. Jasmine to Brooke. What do you get out of this? You know, you just make yourself and the people you defend so much more guilty. Alexis, Brooke, where are your sources saying they went into the house to search the house and or property? Allegedly, they searched and looked at the side-by-side. Just because they saw the side-by-side does not mean they did a thorough search of the house and or property. But Brooke was saying as to the extent or quality of the search, that's unknown of with her knowledge. So she did make that clear at least. Robin to Caleb, as in Caleb Newton, Jack's father. Victor Presgrove, Noah's father, told me that morning that they stopped it from being loaded up and took it to inspect it. Stopped it from being loaded up. What, Jack's trailer? When the police were present, hey, you need to lower that down. We need to take a look at it. And was anything found on it? I guess no. I guess after that, that's when the side-by-side was listed on the Facebook Marketplace. And if that's in the correct order, then it doesn't sound as suspicious. If it's already been checked by police and it's been fine, nothing found, and then you just sell it on, it doesn't sound as bad in that order and timing. Were you there? How do you have so much information? What are your sources? If people don't know the individuals at the time, obviously you will be questioning a lot. Sometimes you've got to use common sense. And why would they need to do that? Jasmine says to Robin. I hope you guys are vigilant in screenshotting all their inconsistencies. Justice is coming soon. Rhonda, I'm an outsider, but if Noah was thrown from the side-by-side, whoever driving ran over him when looking for him. The lady on YouTube said there were abrasions on his right shoulder, probably found him, took him into shower to get mud or dirt off, then put him on the highway. Hard to believe when you would have had other witnesses and people inside of the house, half asleep, resting, they would have seen something or heard something if you were bringing in a dead body through the house. It seems a bit odd or stands out a bit too much. Missy to Jasmine, they did not search the house, period, or the property, I know for a fact. Straight from the investigator. Which investigator then? And when these outsiders who are not even from the place, not even at the party house, didn't know, weren't there, but say for a fact that a search wasn't done, how do you know? The same way you could apply it to those that weren't there but say it was searched. How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? Sometimes a source isn't always given. You're supposed to trust people's words and it's not always enough. Alexis to Rhonda, this could be a plausible theory except for the fact that if OHP really did a search on the side-by-side, they definitely would have found blood on the side-by-side if a search was properly done. But also comes down to the condition of Noah. If there was any blood on the side-by-side, that could be down to the busted lip or the bloody nose, which was caught on camera by mobile. Did you catch his wording at the house where the party was? I believe that tells me they didn't check it or he would know where he was looking at. Okay. Do you want justice for Noah? If so, I'd worry more about that than the people are saying about you or whatever. That might be a post by Caleb in which people are just directly responding to. That appears to be it there for some of the comments. Just to briefly acknowledge the comments from the post by Michael Facecaz, who provided some of the screenshots. Not all of them, it was from a different point of view elsewhere, because you might have noticed the font or text looked a little bit different, but that's just personal preference of the different points of views I've got the screenshots. Nevertheless, just bring it together from certain points of views, not too many. A person called Donna says, doesn't anyone from Noah's groups have any pull with a higher LE office in that area? I just don't understand how all these inconsistencies are being overlooked by higher agencies. I understand locally because we can clearly see the cover-up at that level, implying that there is a cover-up. Tim, do you not remember law enforcement issuing a statement that they are not investigating a murder? I think the thing is, I might have seen a quick glimpse of it. There would have been a time or could have been a time of official statements or photos of that, but more so nowadays, a lot of people will re-quote it in words and not the original source or the original URL link or the original screenshot of that post by law enforcement. So you just have to listen to people's words. Sometimes people don't just, it's a lazy way, it's an easy way, having to look back and find and sift through it all. It can be messy, but what I try and do, at least in my videos, is bring it back to what was once said, where it was originally said and who by, and keep bringing it up and so on. Like the Sarah Long claim of Noah walked away the night before and was found by partygoers and brought back to the house. Oh, so Noah walked off more than once at the party. Not many people talk about that. But when I did, the odd person said, I don't remember that. So I was like, no worries. Here's the screenshot. Here's the source. Here's the proof, and here's the person that said it. It should be that simple, but it just isn't. It's a shame. Tim, has Michael told this group yet that he spoke with law enforcement after they issued their initial statement and they reiterated to him directly they are definitely not conducting a murder investigation? If any evidence did come out, which may be unlikely now, but if any evidence did come out which could point towards murder, then it could be back on the table, but I guess that's yet to happen. Michael to Tim, there you go again, spinning things, Tim. That's not what was said to me. They said at this time they're not investigating it as a murder, but homicide, and other charges are not off the table. They specifically mentioned puzzle pieces and needing more information. I mean, yeah, understanding language and wording at this moment in time, meaning at this moment there's nothing to suggest murder, so don't you get your hopes up there. There is still that possibility of things can change if things are found. But if things aren't found because they're just not there or don't exist, then it won't be treated as murder. So you've got to look carefully at the wording. Michael, here you go again, defending, discrediting. Is this the only time you like to comment on my post or others? It seems to be really similar to the behaviour I referenced in a previous post about you. Can you not allow people to form their own opinion without you coming in to defend or influence people? I mean, from my own experience, I've given my opinions extensively in the case, and Tim Daniel has never got in the way of it. From my experience, Tim Daniel has never caused me any problems, even if I have pushed it with the idea of partygoers being responsible with those theories and so on. Even if Tim didn't agree with my points, he didn't make a big song or dance about it, didn't cause any problems there. Although other people, as we've seen, have thrown the toys out the pram. Other people. Tim to Michael, you made a post a few months back about your conversation with L.E. How they told you they were not investigating a murder. I can find that if you forgot. I normally love theorising and so on. Don't worry, Tim Daniel, I'll read your full comment. Congenial conversations with most people I did. You think you were going to make 3 or 4 posts lying about me and not have me come on over to see what other lies you tell? People can have whatever theory they want, but they are basing it on your post, and you don't let anyone else post in this groups yet scream about controlled narratives. The reason Christine booted you as admin in the other group, which one was that? Was you're blocking anyone who disagrees with you. Why are you so threatened when I point out a correction like you got a lady on one post saying Bob Wilcoxon's brother is in jail for murdering Caleb, however you say that name. It's like false stuff all over this page. You should welcome accuracy. It's all a bit too casual how you allow all the murder accusations here. It's dangerous. We got a problem on Facebook nutjobs going real life because of getting fired up of these posts. You connect Caleb, whatever, to pull on the heartstrings and get people pissed about a missing child, then drop in someone's name in the case, and well, there you have it. The connection is sealed. We got people in groups saying arrest them all. Yesterday a lady said that Jack Newton should be dragged out into the woods and beaten. That's crazy, that. Think about your words, Michael. Sorry if I'm trying to influence people to not drag kids into the woods and beat them. This stuff is sick, and it's directly related to the rhetoric you and your buddy allow in these groups. I mean, at the end of the day, even if Jack Newton was responsible, taking him to the woodland to beat him up isn't going to lead to the correct justice or closure for the victim's family, and it might not even lead to a confession or a valid one. That's why acts of vigilantism can screw up cases. Michael to Tim, Ellie did tell me at the time they were not investigating as murder, but that does not mean homicide charges are off the table. Multiple types of homicide, the distinction I'd made clearly previous. You accuse me of lying, but all I've done is post receipts straight from their own words. This page does not run on rumour, it runs on documentation. If you have proof of something different, drop the screenshots. I mean, the post, which I've seen by Michael, as in running on documentation of what other people have said, to some extent that appears to be true. But how Michael may interpret it at times, there can be a misunderstanding with words and language, and that's why I step in to get that balance back. Like with the cameras, like how Michael interpreted it, that the supposed event of the side-by-side rollover being caught on camera meant the property cameras, meaning they must have worked even though they weren't supposed to, so they must have captured more than other things, even though people are saying it didn't. But Michael misunderstood that because it meant to say, as in cameras, mobile phones, not property cameras, mobile phones. There is a difference. I do not tolerate threats or violence, never have. If someone posts that kind of garbage, it'll be reported removed. As for Christine removing me, that was not what happened. She and I discussed it. I offered to leave many times because she was being bombarded daily with hundreds of DMs from usual suspects. Even though the complaints were ridiculous, she did not want to keep dealing with harassment from people like George Choden and others. I willingly stepped back because the page had been overtaken by an echo chamber of a select few. Bottom line is, the people tied to this case keep changing their stories. You keep showing up to defend them and deflect attention from the real issues. If you want accuracy, start by holding them to their own words instead of attacking mine. Last but not least, Tim Daniel says to Michael, I hear you, Michael. Just seems like you drift a little too far into speculation territory. Some speculation is necessary in unsolved death, but has to stop just before it whips people into a mob of angry villagers. I know it's just Facebook for most people, but really people have done some crazy shit, death threats, and once again yesterday, the girl... and one girl had her car keyed. Who exactly? with things written that I will not repeat. I'm glad to hear you don't tolerate threats. Interesting. With that all being said, the reality is the difference between face-to-face and online is great. You can present yourself in public, the feeling, the experiences can be more real and felt, but in terms of the reach, online is simply more dominant. You show your presence out in public, 10, 20 people may see you, glance by you. You show a photo of yourself in general, basic one online, thousands, 10,000s could see it depending on how popular you are or the traction you get. So with certain responsibilities and your roles online and where you rank within that, if you're in charge of something, in control of something, if you're a creator, an admin, moderator, there's a certain responsibility and an understanding that you may be in the presence of the masses and wide groups of people. It needs to be kept under control because if not, it could turn into a zoo, escalate, and all kinds of chaos can erupt. You think about it, a call to arms, if people are loyal enough, they will look up to their master, their leader, yes men, yes women, emotional connections bounded by ties to that extent, overall emotional behavior, where they'll go above and beyond for someone or some people for a cause, whether it's the right thing or not, led astray maybe with wrong information or a misunderstanding, but believing it to be the truth and nothing but the truth, and going out and at times like mobs causing trouble online from channel to channel, attacks coordinated, and maybe even going in real life if people are that passionate, acts of vigilantism. So you've got to keep things somewhat under control or they can get out of hand. And if there are situations and circumstances where the original people, those in power, in charge, have responsibilities, simply misunderstand something, that can greatly influence everybody else that follows in the same direction and may take direct action. Then it's too late to change it because the damage is done. That is why when I do my videos, map analysis, looking at some details, looking at a location, I do say, within reason, just be careful with your research. Within reason, don't follow up on it yourself. Don't be going out there. Don't be reaching out to them. Don't be contacting them, just as a heads up, because it won't help. It might cause more problems. People should be able to, at their own way, they're a fully grown adult, but just that little heads up, because maybe it doesn't apply to me in the moment, but there might have been a time in the past where if I got attacked, if I was being harassed, there might have been some hard-line viewers or supporters that would go so far to defend me, to protect me in some way, or try and help in a way. And that's really positive. But what you have to do is make sure you're not too connected, as in you might get die-hard supporters and fans, and they're very key, valuable people. But you yourself must have the responsibility to make sure that they don't act too much in your favor and do whatever for you, because it can get dark and it can get, problematic elsewhere. You don't want your fans or viewers to get caught in the mess or get hurt themselves, but at the same time, when you're dealing with trouble and stuff, you don't want certain audience members to start going out and attacking someone on behalf of you or in defense of you, because if it's handled incorrectly, it can make the situation worse for yourself or for other people. So it has to be done within reason. That's why if there is a suggestion to take action, it could be along the lines of, if you believe that there is an issue here, maybe follow through with reporting it or reaching out to someone about it, just to simply spread the awareness. If you believe or if you see that there is a fake account, maybe just spread the awareness that it's fake. Simple call to actions like that. But a more dangerous call to action is the likes of Alicia Lee, Caden Press's mom, in a private Facebook conversation back in 2024, I think maybe around December time or a bit before that, where she said to numerous people, one way you can help is by reporting Warlight Raph's videos to YouTube. Basically get them taken down. And for what reason? And why? And what was I covering back in 2024? Well, I was supporting Caden Pressy from the post and coverage that I did. I was on the light side, and I was in Justin Roy's good books. And yet still Alicia wanted my stuff to be reported and removed. Weird. Then fast forward onwards, going to covering it from a different perspective, a full perspective from the dark side as well. If things were going to be reported or a call to action, you would expect it more to be at a time of when it feels like they feel that you're against them. But I wasn't against them at the time of when they wanted that videos reporting, so it made no sense whatsoever. So very weird times. But, you know, at the end of the day, once again, language, communication goes a long way. And there can be great misunderstandings when people misinterpret. A simple viewer, not simple in that sense, but just a viewer, one person accidentally misunderstanding something online, if it spreads, other people can listen to it and misunderstand it as well, and it just spreads. It's very unfortunate, but it's more likely to happen when it's a creator, an influencer, a moderator, an admin that has more control and power and reach and has an audience that looks up rather than audience members that look side to side. People are more likely to look up and listen, whether it's right or wrong information, and not everybody always questions it because of the psychological influencer effects and so on. But this is the thing. Whilst there is problems with communication and language and resistance and tension and divide, when it comes to the introspection or the self-reflection, I've seen the patterns in that. And maybe it was brought up by Brenda Goodfellow, if that's how you say the last name. Brenda last night said something about the type of videos and the communication here can help one self-reflect if changes are to be made or needed. But what I would say is, just as an example from what I've actually seen, Brenda is a good example, the type of person that doesn't need to self-reflect too much, or more so doesn't need to change because they're fine as they are. And if they don't pick up on something immediately or quite get to the answers of it or questions too much, nothing wrong with that whatsoever, because it can take me quite a bit of time to understand something, to read through lines or words or to pick up on stuff. Some people will understand it or do something in this world like that, click of the finger, no troubles. Other people may find it a bit harder. Some people may find easier things harder, difficult. Other people will find difficult things easier and whatnot. It's all over the place. It is what it is. It's not the end of the world. But obviously, if you do take a different approach, a slower approach, or you internalize and interpret it in a slower way, for some reason other humans tend to just snap and go at you, which really doesn't help. So people need to take their time or do it at their own pace. That's fine. And if people want to rush, okay, it is what it is. But Brenda is a good example of a person that doesn't need to change because they're a good individual as they are. Just from what I've seen, based on observations, which will be exclusive to me, so it won't apply to everybody else, and I do understand that. Tim Daniels' approach and how he's been on my channel and how he responds to me and just how he acts is fine, doesn't need to change there, that's all good. Joyce Begout, same there, all fine and good. And this is the thing, I mentioned about catalyst, as in having to be a catalyst in many different ways with time, and it gets tiring, and I'm sick of being a catalyst, and if being a catalyst ends, there's a great silence. It's really disappointing. But along the way, such as in certain cases, at least in life, I have come across some other catalyst, and that is very reassuring because for me in my life, it's extremely rare to come across another catalyst because I tend to be the only one, the one-man army, simple as. But when I come across other people that are a catalyst in basically reaching out or saying, here's what you need, here's what you could cover, here's a screenshot, this is presented, there you go. I'll be on it. I'll look for it. Boom, 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 straight to the point. You know who you are. And I could give examples of names, but I don't know if that would cause trouble. But basically, I've come across some people here and there, those that have reached out to me with the case, who have been catalyst in helping, assisting, or just doing it in a speedy way, instead of me spending hours trying to look for it, if that makes sense. Vice versa, give and take. As in, they need a link, a video, a reference, there you go. You need a map analysis, a timeline, you want it summarized with language and wording, boom, done, all under control. I go as deep as possible because the reality is most humans on this planet have a mindset of a basement. My mind is of an abyss, and you can take that however you want, both positively and more likely negatively speaking. That is the reality. I can go further, I can go deeper at times. And in terms of being a catalyst, that isn't a problem. The real question is, as for the receiver, the one on the other end who may not be a catalyst, how far will they go? And how much can they take? What will they give? And upon the self-reflection part, just in general in life and in other cases and communities, I have seen it elsewhere where people have said, or their words and language interprets a form of wanting to change or be a better person, be a better man, be a better woman, or anything else in between. But the reality is, do people change? And it can come in different ways. Changing for yourself in regard to what you do and what you have, or changing for someone, depending what the situation is. And it can apply in true crime cases and community where people keep saying, we need to do better. We need to change our ways. We need to focus what's at hand and what's most important, the victim, the justice, the closure. We need to focus on that. All the drama is unnecessary. All of this is so unnecessary. It's so petty. We need to do better, guys. I need to do better. I made mistakes. I need to learn. But how many people change? Not much. How many cycles are repetitive? Endless. I've seen it. I've seen it over and over again. Just words, no action. The reality is, and what I've seen with time, people are good at selling themselves. Oh, they're this, they're that. They've got these characteristics and traits. Oh, they deem it as important. They visualize this as important. They see you as important. They see the case as important. And yet their actions don't translate to that. They sell themselves in such a way that you expect something from. You expect a certain performance, a certain level, something within reason and fairness. And what ends up happening? Lackadaisical, not caring, not actively thinking, not aware, not alert. And what does anything change? Maybe the odd reference. Oh, I'll take that on mind. Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, I need to do better. But nothing happens. The catalyst can only do so much. The catalyst can't change someone, but someone can change themselves, or at least go halfway, because the reality is you don't have to be all cold and full on and say, right, you go off to the mountaintop and change. Doesn't always have to be quite like that to that extreme, that a human tries at least, makes an attempt at least, goes halfway, meets halfway, so then the others or the other meets halfway as well. It's not that difficult, and yet humans make it difficult. And at the end of the day, people could say, oh, so what? Not expected to give much, not expected to care much, not expected to receive and do this and that. You're expecting too much. You're asking too much. You're entitled. You're this, you're that. My simple response is, don't you fucking dare introduce yourself and give a lot or present yourself in a lot, in a high way, in what's valuable, what's present, what's deemed as important, what one cares about, what sees fit or important, like with a case or the community, in terms of the communication aspect, in terms of what happens in the present, what happens in the future, and then nothing happens down the line. They sold themselves in such a way that it sounded good and positive. Their words are words, their actions don't translate very well. So I have every right to make my observations when it can lead to disappointment and a cryonic echo chamber of nothingness. That's the reality for a catalyst. When you're a catalyst, you're likely to be let down very often with time. When you're a catalyst and you come across other catalysts or people trying in some way, within reason, no pressure, no rush, right? In a natural way, it's a very calming experience and it's relief. For once, you don't have to get the job done by yourself. For once, you don't have to fight the waves or the hordes of whatever as a lone wolf. For once, you breathe with another. You breathe with others. And it's not as cold. Because when you're a catalyst and you get to that mountaintop, it's a very bleak experience. And what's ahead is also very bleak as well. And if you come across humans in cases, in communities, online or wherever, and they present themselves in a certain way, which comes across as promising, but it doesn't translate to action, it can be very disheartening. And if they have the cheek later to say, so what, big deal, not the end of the world, you're taking it too serious, you're going too all in. Maybe if you didn't present yourself in such a way in the first place, there wouldn't be expectations. No expectations, no disappointment. But what happens? people overpromise, underdeliver. Whereas when it comes to me, like with true crime, I underpromise, as in I'm just here to cover the case, to try and learn, teach people, learn in different ways, understand it from different perspectives, and we'll see where it goes from there. Oh, it's nothing fancy, nothing flashy, nothing that special. Just like myself when it comes to that aspect. Don't say too much for different reasons, but don't over-promise in that sense, because if one was to over-promise, or like with YouTube, and the targets aren't quite met or the things aren't quite there, it's underwhelming, underperforming, and leads to disappointment. It's got to be thought out and planned. And like with the introspection, the self-reflection, people can do a lot of it, but what does it lead to? And as said, there's good examples of people out there that don't need to change because they're just fine as they are. And as said, just as example, because it only came up in the chat, Brenda would apply to that. Good individual, and then some other people as well. I only single people out based on what's present in front of me, like a case study, in a balanced way based on what I've seen with my eyes on here, on Facebook, and so on. That's why I say what I say. But yeah, the people that don't think or say, oh, I didn't think of that, I wasn't quite sure. But it's pick and choose, because the people that say, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't consider this. Oh, I'm sorry if I am that way. I don't mean it. You don't mean it, but you show a different side elsewhere. Or you've got more proactivity elsewhere or on a different page. Because we've seen two-faced behaviour as well. On a side note with people, Beth, I crashed my car on here compared to elsewhere. And a few other people too, act one way and then completely different elsewhere. You're getting a different experience and other people are getting another experience. So just in general, beside that aspect of two-faced behaviour, because it's not always done intentionally and other times there might be a disconnect, but the humans that say, oh, I wasn't thinking, I didn't mean to be like that, I'm not normally like this, or I'm not like that, I don't mean to come across that way, or I wasn't actually thinking. If you're not thinking, then you're not thinking, and if you're not thinking, you're not caring. And if you're not caring, then what's going on? And some people can get very defensive and say, excuse me, don't you dare be telling me like that, or saying that I don't care. How you presented yourself appeared as if you did. What you said originally appeared that you did, but you don't follow through with your words, which leads to disappointment and nothing at the end, right? How you present yourself first and how you set yourself up to reactions and resistance, self-inflicted. If you're going to say things, you mean it, right? Just like with as simple as communication and emojis, you've seen me, it's selective, there is a hierarchy, and for good fucking reason. Because like with anyone in life, collectively in people's own bubbles, you will have family members, you will have best friends, maybe you might have friends, may have loved ones or anything else in between, and how you interact and communicate with each person can be different. Some people will know more about you than less than others, and how you might be close to people in different ways, emotionally or physically, can differ from person to person and role to role. It's common sense, but the humans that treat everyone and everything the same way, in a nice, positive, fluffy way, or a negative way, what does that mean? Everything's the same, everything's treated the same. It means nothing. It loses the speciality, it loses the depth, it loses the meaning, right? If you're going to treat everybody the same exact way, you might as well sleep with everybody the same exact way. I might as well just stand up right now and say, there we go, nothing special about this, everybody deserves these, there you go. Oh, I'm sorry, Tim Daniel, for traumatizing you. No, this is not Partners in True Crime or Partners in True Tight Tops. This is Warlike Wrath. But am I going to parade myself, take this off and say, there you go, everybody can see it? No, because I have standards, first of all. I have morals, second of all. And thirdly, not everybody deserves to see nipples, right? Once again, a very random example, but the reality is, applying elsewhere, how you apply it and who to can mean a big difference and can have value and depth. If you show everyone it, you act a certain way, or you use emojis or words or endearment terms or anything else in between, it loses its value and meaning to that key group of people, a closer, tight-knit group of people you may be associated with. You use it to everyone and anyone. What is the fucking point in the first place then? Well, I like to express my emotions. I'm such a nice, cuddly person. I just want to please everyone and be really nice and happy and sparkly brains. Get a fucking grip of yourself, okay? You treat everybody the same exact way. That's positive in some ways, but it loses its value. It loses its meaning. And the people that are much closer and more important, supposedly, devalue, feeling nothing. And how does this link to the case? All under control. Because with Caden Pressey as an example, an individual that was willing to mark his word and say, I will give my phone and sell it or give it to anyone that wants it or buys it to anyone. I will also release my Apple data of certain phone pings or timestamps to the public. Oh, so Caden will release important sensitive material, or at least give the phone to the first come, first serve, random general public, without considering giving it to a hierarchical structure, as in those that are deserving of it more, who are more important of it, like the family. The victim's family, whatever you want to say entitled, more deserving of seeing or receiving Caden Pressey's phone or data records, more so than the general public. I said common sense. Then other people that share information and sensitive details. You start chucking it around and sharing it about Noah Presgrove, about party goers, about other people, family, friends of friends, and it becomes public and it's shared and it's spread so reckless and open that the person that was sharing it in the first place, did they value or consider where it should have gone? Nope. Does it lose its value and meaning? Absolutely. Should it have been reserved for someone special? Should it have been reserved for someone important and deserving of learning about it privately? Yes. But humans decide to just throw it out, spread the arms, spread the legs, and give it to everyone, and it loses its value and meaning. And sometimes it might turn out to be wrong or incorrect or misunderstood, leads to a mass understanding, leads to mass confusion, and then more problems as well. If it was contained in the first place, if it was shared to one key individual, they made sense of it, it reinforced it, or it debunked it, or it was misunderstood, it's contained because it's private and behind closed doors, no big deal. But of course, when you do get private conversations by other people, shared by other people, public, that can get out of hand as well. That's unfortunate. I've experienced, as in, other conversations out there with other people coming out, and they've just been posted about. And there's a misunderstanding. It's bad, but if it was in the background and there's a private conversation, it was meant to stay private. It wasn't meant to cause public harm or public confusion. But because it was shared by other people publicly, it did cause mass confusion on an external level. But bringing it all back together in a case, in a community, Noah Presgrove case and beyond in general, if you're going to treat everything and everyone the same way and give everyone and everything the same words, lines, compliments, material, footage and evidence, it loses its meaning, it loses the hierarchical structure. And in a case, there is a hierarchical structure. In life, there is a hierarchical structure, because without it, there's not much order, and without it, there's not much meaning, there's not much depth, there's not much purpose. I don't understand how humans can't understand that. Right? I'm one of the least experienced individuals in many different aspects, which people could take the piss out of at the end of the day. And yet I seem to know a lot more, or at least value a lot more than what most humans out there do. It's pathetic. It really is pathetic. Okay? So you bring it all back together as one. The origins are important. As for the confusion, as for the devaluing of material, how it's handled, and how the true people, the deserving ones, should be receiving of it, and not the masses at times, or at least the order of how it comes about, the valuing of it, and people don't always do that. So if things are undervalued, if people are underappreciated, it's not going to go in a positive direction, is it? That's why I take it extremely serious and important, and that's why there can be a hierarchical structure at times. And even on a silly, basic note with emojis, as silly as it sounds, but I like to use a variety of examples, light-hearted ones, important ones, deep ones, shallow, casual ones, As in, certain emojis I will never use towards the majority, and certain words I will never use to anyone left, right, and center, because there are some things best kept and said to that one key person, and that is it. No questions asked. Straight to the point, right? When humans start being so loose with their language and wording, that's where the value is lost. That's where you then question the other person or people, as in, what's going on in your mind? What do you really want? What do you really need? What do you really value? You can question yourself till the cows come home. You can do introspection, but what does it ultimately lead to? There might be a level of awareness, there might be a want or need to change or adapt, but who, for, and how, in what way exactly? And with the cases and communities, for examples of the people that want to change, they need to do better, they need to handle things better and respond better, do they? Not always. What about the people along the way that supposedly put their hands up, say they've done wrong, they've messed up, and then change or try to be a better person? Well, shout out to those people. I mean, I don't know if I'm correct in saying, I think there might have been a time where Joyce Begow did a post saying she holds her hands up for how she behaved at one point. Me personally, I've never come across Joyce Begow in a negative way, but that's only from my perspective, okay? And my perspective may not be fully complete. So if Joyce Begow did acknowledge something, well then that's a big positive towards them. I said it's not a therapy session, but in terms of trying to contain how some humans connect or behave, it's needed to try and help the case. Not everybody can control themselves, but those that can control themselves, or those that are catalyst, or those that are somewhat self-aware, that's a big positive there. But you will get a range of fake people in between that will act one way but then act different afterwards, that say certain things and sell themselves in certain ways, but then their actions don't meet their words. There might be some excuses in between. Oh, because of this going on. Oh, because of that happening. How long do they last for? How long do those excuses remain valid until they expire? What ultimately happens in the end, right? And just because I've seen many patterns and trends in the past where there's not been much change and it's just gone round and round in circles, it just becomes tiring. There's no point. Now, whilst I might be a catalyst and I've done my videos, right? Because with me being a catalyst and in other ways as well, I will go above and beyond. It doesn't always have to be about completely solving the case or, that stuff, because I only can do so much. I'm very fully aware of that, but in other ways as well. Preventing other people from getting screwed over, preventing other people from being backed into a corner, doing the awareness, making the predictions before it all goes to shit. And in the past, those that listened were better off down the line. Those that turned their backs or decided to just criticize me after me spending hours of deep psychological videos, really important, key critical predictions, and what did they do? They tutted, they nodded their heads, they walked away, they pissed off, and they're still stuck in an endless cycle right now. It is what it is. If they listened, if they learned, or just simply took it in mind, might have been better off. So shout out to the people that did take it in mind. I don't have to be the catalyst. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I don't have to go above and beyond and go deeper than anybody else with the most stamina, the most energy, and at times the most passion. But it just happens because it's just natural and built within me. But I do know if I stop or if the plug is pulled, it'll be a deathly silence. And that's what's disappointing. But it is what it is, right? Was there anything else to conclude with? Just that these points and observations are made because it's what can prevent more problems down the line. But when I have come across some singular people, like Justin Roy, mentioned what I said, did the key observations there, Justin did not take it on board and was on the receiving end of more stuff down the line. If he had listened, he might have been better off as a case study example, right? I said as a catalyst, you can only do so much. The ball is in their court. What are they going to do next? What are you going to do next? Beside all of that, hopefully it makes sense. The importance of today's video is looking at some screenshot conversations which may have been forgotten about, and the presence of Paul Poucher. Paul Poucher's wife showing up, and even Madison Rawlings and Robin Smith countering BBC, and BBC saying it was searched the house, and the others saying it wasn't. People saying facts, but we don't see the actual facts. People giving sources without giving the sources. It's a problem, that. But you can see the tension, the disagreements between the key people and familiar names, which may not be as present or as active nowadays because it just doesn't go on as much, because either people have been removed from pages, kicked or back down, or gone on elsewhere to other pages. So it has gone quieter in general, which is a shame, because you would want everybody to be all in the same spot. As chaotic as that may be, you can keep your eyes close on everybody around and track movement, actions and words. Because when people go underground or feel pushed away, how are you going to be able to understand what's going on? So the recklessness of other people can lead to bridges being burnt down and creating a wider gap and distance. And that just screws it over for everybody else. With that being said, I think things are under control here in terms of the hunger and the presence of the reach, not so much, which is disappointing, but this case has gone on, and maybe this is breaking news, it'll bring back more people or newer people in and so on, but you'll see it from other channels, you'll see it from other pages, there might be quietness, and that's just what happens with any case or most cases, unless it's a really high profile popular one, which is constantly receiving coverage. Some get more support and more official coverage. It's unfortunate, but just do what you can. So yeah, my name's Warlike Ref. Hope you enjoyed the video in some way. Feel free to hit the like button, share the video, and if you want to support the channel, below in the comment section pinned is a PayPal link and channel membership. We'll see what happens next. Goodbye for now.